I'd like to welcome you to all our clients and guests to our cybersecurity webinar. We're so happy to provide this as part of our ongoing commitment to education and a part of our 25th anniversary celebration Navigation Group, 25 years. And we've been working with many of you for a lot longer than that. Both Eric and I have been increasingly asked from our clients, our family, our friends, to help and understand what's going on with threats and modern technology. And we'd like to bring you this great seminar, Eric.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about a lot of our speakers will talk about a lot of the current cybersecurity and online threats and how to better protect ourselves. After the main presentation, time permitting, we'll have some room for Q&A from our presenters. And with that said, we'd like to thank our two featured presenters, Supervisory Special Agent Ryan Party from the San Francisco branch of the FBI, and Christian Alvarez from the Advisor and Investor Security team at LPL Financial. Gentlemen, we are very happy to have you here. Take it away. We're all ears.
All right, perfect. All right, hello everyone. Really happy to be here today. And Ryan, really happy to be here alongside you. We're always great working with the FBI. And before we get started, I want to briefly go over the agenda here for what we're talking about today. So like they mentioned, they did a great job, Carlo and Eric, with that introduction there. But my name is Christian Alvarez. I work as an analyst on our Advisor Investor Security team. And I've worked here at LPL for about 4 years now in our various information security departments, helping support our advisors with their cybersecurity. Very passionate about cybersecurity and educating others about it, as is Ryan that's joining me here today. Ryan, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself before we start?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Christian. My name is Ryan Party, as I was introduced here. I am the Supervisory Special Agent. I am now, as of just a couple days ago, in charge of our cyber task force here in San Francisco, and have been with the FBI now for almost 22 years. Worked a whole bunch of different things during that time, but certainly my largest passion is this realm of cybersecurity, and I'm very excited to present right alongside Christian here to help drive home hopefully some things that help you guys in your day-to-day life.
All right, perfect. All right, so briefly, I'll go over the agenda before we get right into the presentation. So we're first going to start with having Ryan present, and he'll be talking about AI and giving a cybersecurity perspective on AI and AI threats that are out there. Then next, we'll be talking about how you can protect your information, and the various information that you hold and all that information that you have and hold dear to yourself. Then we'll talk about the various cyber attacks and scams that are out there and those best practices and how to defend against them. And we'll end off the presentation on how you can secure your accounts and your devices. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Ryan for his perspective on AI.
Awesome. Thank you guys so very much for giving me this opportunity to be here and talk a bit about AI. Certainly we, the FBI, aren't the inventors of artificial intelligence. We are very much dependent upon other private sector entities who focus a lot more on innovation and drive that innovation to create all kinds of new novel products that will help society, arguably that come also with a lot of other challenges in terms of how we prepare ourselves to deal with the inherent cybersecurity challenges that come along with this innovation that often outpaces how we are able to posture ourselves in this realm. So first, a little bit of a primer on kind of what AI is and what artificial intelligence is, because there are lots of ways to really think about this and talk about this. Certainly a lot of what you who are on this call right now see from time to time, or often, depending upon how you conduct your daily lives, fall into these first two categories of both reactive and then the limited memory types of artificial intelligence. Certainly reactive might be something along the lines of looking at a search engine and you start to type something in, and right below where you type in something are some recommendations of what you might be trying to type in. So based on what these statistics show you are likely to be looking for, it's going to react to what you are doing and then input or provide some type of output for you, options to try and guess what it is you want to do. Now, where we are more so for the vast majority of people, though, is this second category of limited memory. Many of us have heard of, Chat GPT. What we talk about here is this generative AI, which is you have a large set of data and you use this large set of data to try and also guess and predict what people are going to do. Now, when we look at this, we were thinking more along the lines of the virtual assistants that we see, on our devices, on our computers, or through apps themselves that are actually some type of AI assistant. And then also I had the privilege of trying here in San Francisco my first self-driving car the other day through a company called Waymo, and it was certainly very interesting to try and see how that performed. But this is also along these same lines of what we're talking about with this limited memory type of artificial intelligence. And then getting to these second two categories here at the bottom of this theory of mind, or when AI itself can start to respond to human feelings. And then, of course, this self-aware category kind of at the bottom that many of us, talk about in the movies of, what is ultimately the biggest, most scary element here of AI is when they become self-aware and thus can decide their own fate or its own fate. So along those lines here, it is important for us to kind of understand that there are these realms where we are right now, and that there are going to be realms where we're going to go in the future. Next slide, please, here. So skipping back here to this idea, though, of cyber threats and kind of how this is dialed into, what we do in this realm of being prepared to deal with, AI or really any other type of cybersecurity threat. And, don't get me wrong, Christian has a whole lot of great things to tell you guys later on as to what this really means for what you need to do on a daily basis. So then let me just give you a bit of perspective about, what the FBI sees as the overall threat picture from these different types of elements here. And you can see on your screen in front of you here on one side, we have what we call hacktivism. And it used to be the case that we were not very concerned about this whole, hacktivism realm, that this really was akin to somebody doing spray painting or graffiti on the side of a building and, saying, yay, look at us, look how cool we are, we can break into somebody's, web page. But the truth is nowadays, this really means a lot more. People are doing things in this hacktivism realm because they have a belief in something. In the rare case where we don't want to monetize something in this realm as a malicious cybersecurity actor, we might just do it for a particular purpose to say that we can do this or show that we can do this. So we see in this realm that is most scary this idea of ransomware. And, of course, not all actors are driven by, hacktivism or some type of theory or some type of mantra that they want to believe in, but nonetheless, this is kind of on one end of loosely organized individuals who may or may not be acting together or may or may not be acting on their own, and are certainly driven by a particular purpose. While as the next step, I think, in this realm where we are right now, in this cyber crime realm, as we like to call this, certainly like to monetize what it is that they're doing. And these can be highly organized individuals. It could be a group of individuals that exist in the US. We see them very often in Eastern Europe, where sometimes they have the freedom to organize and operate a bit more prolifically than they might here in the US or in the Western realm. But ultimately, what they want to do in this cybercrime realm is try and create monetary value with what they're doing, which is primarily why I and Christian am here today, and primarily why we have good jobs to try and help defend against all the money that you have that we think you ought to keep. We don't want to give these guys easy opportunities to find this. And again, you will hear a lot more from Christian later as to what these steps are that you need to take, but understand these are primarily the groups of people that we are trying to target in terms of our defenses and in terms of how we want to posture you to be prepared to deal with this. More times than not, this middle group, both of insider and espionage, are types of groups that want to target more corporate types of values or bank accounts. And, thus they might perpetrate scams in kind of different ways, but it relies upon them in this insider realm of having some type of access and thus you trusting them already with that access. So if somebody has your credentials because you've given them or they've gotten them through their own means, through their own job, this potentially could fall into this realm. while this realm of espionage might be somebody who wants to take that same thing and try and sell some of these secrets to some type of nation, to some type of country, to some type of other entity. Corporate espionage is certainly a thing also here. In my early years of working in the FBI, talking about the terrorism realm in terms of the online footprint was also part and parcel to what we talked about with hacktivism, where there just wasn't really that capability there. But nowadays, also with successive generations of younger people being recruited into terrorist organizations and then bringing with them a stronger capability in the technology realm, we do see this as more of an inherent threat. And with state-sponsored terrorism, this for us, again, is extremely concerning. The good news is for you on your end in this particular discussion that we're having here and presentation, this is not something I think you personally need to be quite as concerned about, but it is something certainly to be aware of. And then certainly on the far end of the spectrum here, as we have organized in this slide, talking about cyber warfare and what happens and what we have seen and what you would have read about in reporting for a country like Ukraine, who is in a full-on war with Russia, and some of the different types of elements of that have been pervasive online, either leading up to the invasion itself or as the invasion has gone on. And really what that means when you have a nation state like Russia conducting cyber operations, and again, anybody can think what they want to politically about how all this has been undertaken in this realm. That's not why I'm here to talk about this. But what I am here to say is you have a country like Russia who is very capable in the cyber realm and has built a very strong and powerful cyber capability over the course of time, and then has the opportunity to exercise those capabilities in a theater of war, mind you, very virtually in the sense that I'm talking about now. But nonetheless, what does that mean for us here? And certainly there are some, slightly doomsday-like scenarios that could happen if the U.S. was caught in direct war against another country altogether. And what would they do? What would they do if all of a sudden they shut down the United States' electrical grid, which is broken down into multiple parts? We certainly see a little bit of this or previews of this from time to time when our weather just gets bad in and of itself and shuts down the physical elements of our electrical grid in certain cities, in certain states, in certain parts of the country. So when somebody's able to perpetrate an all-out war against one of these pieces of critical infrastructure that the FBI wants to hold as sacrosanct for us to operate on a daily basis as U.S. citizens, then this is certainly a very key and important element here. Next slide, please. So specific to AI, why is it that we're concerned about AI in today's day and age in the same realm that I just talked about with cybersecurity? It is because AI has become, as you can do online, a force multiplier for some type of malicious cybersecurity actor who wants to be able to very quickly go out and perpetrate a scam. You can look at the first point up here about deep fakes. And, although in today's day and age, with really basic skills, you can create very convincing deep fakes. Thankfully for us, they are not foolproof yet. So, as we will talk about later, primarily Christian will mention this also, the idea of two-factor authentication that he will get into is certainly something that applies here also to this idea of deep fakes in the AI realm of, trust but verify through a secondary means. So you can try and get some sense about what people are putting out there. But certainly, as we are very concerned in election season right now, where foreign adversaries can come out and produce videos that could make it look like either presidential candidate is saying something that in fact they aren't really saying in real life, and that their political platform does not represent. And this could really create some negative influence on either candidate's political future here, as we are very close to election day here, and what that really means to everybody and to these campaigns and to our sense of democracy in the United States could certainly be very impactful, and something we were trying to stay ahead of here in the FBI. Trying to create malicious software or creating scams that leverage existing malicious software certainly is something that AI and realms of creating very quickly through AI new types of scams and creating people's voices, that things go beyond these deep fakes of full video and audio content, as well as recreating documents that you have relied on as a person who's out there in the business realm. And certainly as we start to talk to big data, AI going out and collecting data for purposes of corporate espionage through computer intrusions themselves is of great concern for us. We won't spend a lot of time talking about military tech here also, but certainly this is again something the FBI is trying to stay very engaged in, but we very quickly are outpaced by technology in this realm. And as I said also here, politically divisive types of issues in this disinformation category, which is very salient, I think, right now in this particular moment with us just weeks away from the election itself, and what this means for our democracy in the United States. Next slide, please. So we have engaged in a couple of different campaigns to help all the different political candidates here, because we are meant to be in the FBI very agnostic to politics and want to support U.S. democracy at its very fundamental state to help this out. Likewise, trying to eliminate or help every U.S. citizen be aware of what types of campaigns are being undertaken by campaigns or foreign governments, such that we are all aware of where they're getting funding or influence, such that anybody can make their own judgment based on what they believe in and not be subject to influence from foreign governments. You might have read from a cybersecurity company in Australia, a group called Green Cicada that was already out on the platform X, trying to leverage bots to create a disinformation campaign against political candidates here in the U.S. Thankfully, from what it sounded like, it was not very successful. It's a little difficult to measure resonance in that category, but nonetheless, it was detected and reported on by this group. And these are why groups like the FBI or partnering with somebody like Christian are out there trying to stay ahead of cybersecurity threats, or on top of them, or at a minimum be able to react to them, so everybody else can be informed and be able to be in a position to react to those themselves. Next slide, please. We have talked here a little bit about AI, but you can also imagine that every time we have some type of major event that takes place, whether it is the election itself or going out and talking about, as we mentioned here in February 2023, Turkey and Syria earthquake relief. And yes, with Helene having taken place here very quick recently in the US, rather, we have also seen the attempts to create different types of voices suggesting that criminal groups are out fundraising for Helene victims itself and utilizing AI to help more quickly create different types of scams via robocalls. So I feel like we've talked about all these quite well, but most importantly, to drive home this idea of AI enables people to engage in creating new scams without a strong proficiency or level of experience. They are still detectable. You can still look at them, but it is still also very easy to become a victim. Next slide, please. And so the last thing I'll talk about here is the things the FBI has to offer to you to suggest for you and how you become a bit more well postured to defend against some of these scams. Number one is what we're doing right here, talking about these scams. So you have some level of suspicion. If the CEO of your company, puts out some type of message on social media that seems just a little bit fishy or a little bit different, or the video doesn't quite seem, right, that you have some suspicions off the top of, hey, look, I don't know if I trust this video. It seems a little bit off. Use that. Double check this and understand that what might be being put out there rather is not actual. It's not true, and it might be being created by AI or somebody else with a skill set that they can morph videos and help create different types of personas and audio and sample that in a very quick fashion, such types of videos. Again, like Christian's going to talk about this idea of trust but verify or multi-factor authentication. I won't talk about it too much in the technical realm because he is going to talk about this, but this idea of layered personal security. How do you handle personal security? And again, Christian will take you through the steps of how you do this. But this is an important element to drive home, because this is also the same suggestion that we would give you, just as Christian is going to give you here also. And, fighting fire with fire, more strong, more robust, more relevant cybersecurity of using AI also for that same realm, gathering intelligence in the cybersecurity realm, and using that same intelligence that AI is trying to create to use against you to hopefully try and stay ahead of it. So it's an important element we try and do also in this realm. Sharing information back and forth. This is sometimes a bit of a leap in logic, but we in the FBI had created an organization called InfraGard. It's a nonprofit that actually stands on its own. It's a 501c3 that ultimately allows competitors from different companies, but in the same sector, to share different what we call IOCs, or indicators of compromise, talking about how somebody has compromised them, because we all felt like cybersecurity was a bit of a zero-sum game, and really cooperating in this realm and sharing information in this realm helped everybody, and helped the US, and helped the companies in the US. And then the last thing I would talk to you about here is a website called ic3.gov, which is probably the one thing you can write down that's tangible from my discussion here, that if you got scammed tomorrow, you can utilize, which is report wherever you were scammed, whenever you were scammed, to ic3.gov. Yeah, I get that maybe you need to go talk, if this was a corporate scam, to legal counsel and decide how the corporation wants to deal with this. You might also need to talk to a third-party provider that Christian is, and start to talk about what your cybersecurity posture is, how you mitigate what's happening right now. But somewhere in that realm deliberately should be, hey, look, should we report this to the FBI? And why do you want to do this? The one thing, if you take nothing away from right now, is there is a good reason why to report this to the FBI, and that is the FBI has the ability to react very quickly with banks to at least freeze money. So if somebody has perpetrated a scam and doctored up an invoice and sent that invoice to a wire room to say, hey, look, send some money over here, which somebody did to a Hong Kong-based company against a UK-based executive for that company here recently, using AI and creating a fake video across Zoom where we are right now, the way you freeze that money is talk to the FBI as quickly as possible. Now, you don't have to tell us everything. We don't need to be involved in the nuts and bolts, but we do want to start this thing called the financial fraud kill chain, which if you go to that website down there on the slide, they will start the financial fraud kill chain, and they will hopefully get the money frozen. Now, if it has been, weeks since something has happened and you've just now become aware of that, hey, it might be too late. But if we're talking in a matter of hours and you've just become aware of this, sometimes even just a matter of days, it is still possible that some of these transfers have bounced back and forth between a couple accounts, and we might be able to trace that, and then thus alert one of the banks, one of the correspondent banks for the US bank, that something has happened with money, and we're here to help you freeze it so a proper investigation could take place and hopefully help you recover some of the money.
Perfect.
Next slide. Is that the end of mine?
That's the end of yours.
All right. So again,
perfect.
thank you guys, everybody, so much for all this. I will turn it over to Christian now to kind of give you some more meat and potatoes about what this probably means for you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Ryan. And just so everyone knows, if you have questions for Ryan, we'll have time at the end of the presentation here. And again, all this is being recorded, so you'll be able to access a review or replay of this at the later time. Eric and Carlo will distribute that out to you once it's made available. So yeah, ic3.gov, really great. We actually utilize a lot of the statistics and analysis and research reports that they provide to educate you and our advisors. So every time you report something to there, that does help fund their research, so they can help create new tactics to either educate or make people more aware of what threats are out there. So we're going to go ahead and go into protecting your information. Again, a lot of great information there. But when it comes to protecting your information, understanding cybersecurity, there's one thing that I like to always start about and talking about the lifetime of cyber threats. So the reason why we like talking about this is because a lot of people might say to themselves, hey, cybersecurity, this is all great, but that stuff I see in the movies, that stuff I see in the news, there's no way that could apply to me because of, and that you give an excuse or a reason. Well, being an LPL financial client, that's not the case for you. You have money, information, data that cybercriminals would love to have access to. And if you look, no matter where you are in life, so any human being that exists today in this modern digital age, they have some sort of cyber threat or information that a cyber criminal would like to target. So we start the left here where we start at youth threats. There's things called child identity theft, or there's different types of scams called new account creation or synthetic identity theft, where people are taking advantage of the fact that your child or the children or people that you're controlling or young adults will maybe not have a credit or maybe not have a credit score, maybe not have any credit cards. So they're not going to be actively checking that. So what they'll do is they'll go ahead and create a credit card in a baby's name. And it won't be till decades later till you figure out, why does my baby have a credit score? Why am I getting things in the mail for utility bills that my kid's definitely not paying for? So things like that can happen even in the youth. We go further into life when you become an adult. As you get older, you have more and more accounts. You start to build more and more wealth, more financial accounts, more information that a cybercriminal would love to target. That's where you see all these common threats like credit card fraud, wire fraud, tax refund fraud, or even account takeover, where they try to take over your financial accounts and use that to try to get more information to break into other places elsewhere. As you get a little older and you go to your more elderly part of your life, maybe towards retirement, maybe towards the end of your career, not only do you might not have you may have more wealth, but more access of income through tax refund scams, through social security checks you might be receiving, whether it's a family impersonation or even phishing scams trying to impersonate other people that you know. Whatever it is, or wherever you are in life, it's just important to note that there are cyber criminals out there that want to target you, the new information, and the new sources of revenue that you have to make. So just really important to say that, and it really does put in perspective that from right out again, these new children that are coming in to this new digital life and experience we have right now, they're going to have a world, definitely a different world than we grew up in. I mean, I'm a little younger than everyone here on the call, but for the most part, again, even I didn't even have Wi-Fi till I was 8 years old. So if we look at that perspective, you have people that are 3 years old with an iPad in their hand. So it's a wildly different world out here. Definitely important to know that that you fall into it, and there's always room to protect yourself. So, before we got that out of the way, now I want to talk about how we keep your information safe here at LPL, and where you fall into this protection that we have and everything that we have to offer for you. So, when it comes to yourself and everyone on this call, you have investment accounts with us, financial assets, a lot of personal information that you do not want getting out there. You hold that here with LPL. And we work directly with your firm to conduct reoccurring trainings like the training we're doing here today. And we help build a personal relationship with the navigation group office in order to either providing them financial tools, or helping answer their questions, or helping them remediate any things they might see, or if you have a compromised client. We work directly with them and partner with them to make sure they're secure and they have a direct cybersecurity contact to help them out with anything in case something happens. So that's what LPL is providing to navigation group now. When it comes to LPL as a company, we have a dedicated cyber staff of over 175 cybersecurity professionals that are working around the clock, 24/7, 7 days a week, working to make sure that your information, our networks, and everything you store with us is secure. And the reason why that's important is because, again, with threats out there, with all the information we have, as LPL becomes a bigger and bigger company, I believe we're just pushing over 25,000 financial advisors we support. And again, we've already broken into the Fortune 500 list, and we're climbing fast. As we get more and more, wealth, and we grow as a company, we're going to have a bigger target on our back. So making sure that we're investing on that in our cybersecurity teams and growing our staff and making sure we have people around the clock defending you is always top of mind for us. We're implementing the most modern security tools available to us to make sure that we're meeting not only what the regulators make us have, but going above and beyond that. And you can kind of see that with the cyber insurance policy that we have, which I'll actually talk about a little bit later. But we have a policy in place to make sure that in case something does happen, you will be covered and your advisor will be covered as well. So if we go a little bit further, one thing I always like to point out is our LPL cybersecurity page. Now, this is a cybersecurity page that everyone on this call can access right now. What does a cybersecurity page have? Well, it has a lot of different topics and articles and videos and educational material all about cybersecurity that you can access. It's easy to read, nice bite-sized chunks. You're not going to be sent to a 15-page article with a bunch of word tech jargon that you won't be able to understand. We've made this specifically to learn and teach the basics about cybersecurity. We cover topics like password security, device security, different phishing and scams. And most importantly, we actually talk about our LPL cyber fraud guarantee, which is that insurance policy I mentioned a little earlier. I'll go ahead and read that verbatim for you. So our cyber fraud guarantee, which is really great, it states the following. LPL will reimburse you of 100% of realized losses in your impacted LPL accounts, which were incurred directly as a result of an unauthorized access to an LPL system. So if someone were to break into LPL security controls or break into some of our software, the things that we support, and your information was lost, LPL has a policy in place to make you whole. Now, the reason why this is so important is it acts as a base level of security in case something does happen to LPL, but also proves our dedication to making sure that you're made whole and that you're secure, and showcases how much we care about our clients and their information. And a policy like this, you can't just get a policy like this from any insurance company. LPL had to prove, earn, and make sure that we went through testing in order to even get approved for a policy, because insurance companies, they don't insure anyone for any reason whatsoever. So LPL had proper security controls in place, was able to showcase that to the insurance company protecting us in order to go ahead and approve us for a policy like this. So we're so confident in our security controls that we can offer something like this. So I'm really proud to offer that. It's really great. If you want to read more about the policy and its stipulations and all the little fine print, you can do that at our LPL website. You can get to that LPL website by just typing in cybersecurity at LPL at Google or your favorite web browser, and it'll be the first page that appears. Also is located on the bottom of our lpl.com website under privacy and security. If you click on that link at the bottom of the website, you'll be taken right there. So really great website here. Definitely access this if you have the time. All right, so we're going to go right into talking about the different types of cyber attacks and scams that are out there. And what I'd love to start with is something called social engineering. Now, many of you here might have heard of the term social engineering before, but if you haven't, I'll break it down for you. So it's really easy. Social engineering are just cyber attacks that are designed to take advantage of your human emotion. Now, what do I mean by human emotion? Well, think of all the emotions that a human being goes through: greed, sadness, worry, happiness. They try. What essentially cyber criminals have found out is that it's actually easier to target you as an individual than to target the cybersecurity software that your computer has, or the antivirus software that you have in your computer. That takes a lot of skill and a lot of work to do. If they could just target you and get around all of that stuff, it's going to be much easier for them to do that, and they don't even have to have as much technical solutions or be a master programmer or hacker to do that. So we'll talk about some of the most common social engineering attacks here now. I want to start with phishing. Now, phishing sounds funny. No, it's not phishing with the rod and reel, but acts kind of similar to that, where you have malicious emails that are being sent out as bait to a large group of individuals. Now, if you think of a large group of individuals, I don't just mean 100 people or 1,000 people. These phishing emails are a mass group of emails that are sent to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people at a time. And the whole goal is to get you to take the bait, which is clicking on the email, and not just clicking on an email, but they want to get you to either click on a link within the email, or they want you to open a malicious attachment so they can get malware or a virus onto your computer. Now, phishing is the oldest type of cyber attack in the book, and they're still being used again and again and again because it works, and they couple phishing emails with scams and different types of things to make it more enticing to click. That's how they can get to doing these type of attacks so frequently. And again, because they're sending them out to masses, if only 1% or even 0.5% of people, and they click on a link or click on a malicious attachment on a malicious email that's sent, that's going to be more than enough for them to use that to either get some money, get some information, log into some financial accounts. So if we move on to the next type of social engineering attack that I wanted to cover, it's going to be phishing. Now, with a lot of these words that we're using, they sound funny, right? Phishing, smishing. I'm not making them up. They actually have their own reasons what they stand for. So phishing actually stands for voice phishing. These are phishing attacks that have a live vocal component tied to them. And these type of attacks are always usually conducted over the phone. And what they want to do is, this scammer, they know how to talk very well. They're good at talking, convincing people how to do things, and they try to go and call you and obtain sensitive information or try to get access to your devices via starting a phone call. And you might be wondering, how can someone do that all over the phone? Well, typically in a phishing attack, someone will try to perpetrate another legitimate entity, whether it's maybe they'll want to impersonate the FBI, but they want to impersonate a fake tax business. Maybe they want to impersonate a fake tech company. Whatever it is, they're going to try to call you, convince you that they're a person that they aren't, and they're going to use that authority to try to build credibility with you so you can listen to them and follow the instructions that they give you over the phone. At the end of the day, if you listen to what they tell you, you're either going to try to get your credit card information from you and charge you an obscene amount for fake services, or they're going to try to get access to any of your login information, or maybe even try to install a program on your computer so they can take a look around and access your computer and start moving around things and saving files and doing a lot of nefarious activity. Whatever it is, these phishing attacks are very prevalent, and you've probably seen some people try to call you before. So this is something that's definitely out there, but it also segues nicely into our next attack, which is smishing. Very similar to phishing and vishing, except smishing stands for SMS phishing. These are malicious communications that are sent over text message or SMS communication. So I don't know if someone's here that's on the call has definitely received a fake text message before. Sometimes it might say, hey, you received a UPS package, but you weren't there. Please click here to get that UPS package back or signed for. Or maybe sometimes they'll tell you that your Netflix subscription has expired. Please click here to renew it. Whatever it is they're trying to tell you to do, what's happening here is that they're going to get you to try to either reply back and send a text message with some personal information so a cyber criminal can go ahead and take and run away with that. Or sometimes they can be trying to get malware on your mobile device. A lot of people believe that, hey, because I have an iPhone, I can't get any malware or virus on my phone. That's actually not true. There is malware that exists for your mobile devices. In fact, I want everyone on this call going forward to just think about your mobile device as a personal computer that you have. It can get malware on it just like any other computer can. So it's important that you're not clicking on random links on your phone, thinking that your phone is invulnerable to any type of attack. So next, I want to round it off with scams. The reason why I round it off with scams is because all these attacks that I've talked about today, phishing, smishing, vishing, they're only as strong as the scam that is tied to it. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if someone sent you a malicious email with a fake link to that would take you to a website that's going to install malware on your computer, you're not going to click on that email if if someone just sent you an empty email with just a malicious link in it and nothing else. You're just going to ignore it. Most likely, it's just going to get caught up in your spam filter. You'll never even see it. So what do cyber criminals do? Well, they tie all these different types of vectors of attack with a scam. Whether it's a gift card scam telling you that, hey, if you do certain information here, I'll provide you with a gift card. Or maybe it's a lottery scam. Hey, you won the lottery. You just need to pay a small amount, give us your credit card information, or click this link to go ahead and claim your prize. Or sometimes it could even be something even more formal, or where someone's trying to impersonate maybe a financial advisor or a business that you've worked with, or a company that you're paying their services for. Whatever it is, these scams are made to trick you, made to wrap up and package any of these type of attacks that they're doing to make it more enticing for you to believe on them, click on them, and tie to your emotions, whether they make you feel happy because they say that you won the lottery, or they make you feel sad scared by saying that you're going to be penalized with fines if you don't click this link right now. Whatever it is, they're trying to play to your emotions and take advantage of that. Now, I want to go ahead and take some time to break down a phishing email. So this is an example of a phishing email that we have here. So I want you to take a look at this. If you look really closely, you can probably start to see some red flags that are over here. Again, some of it might be very obvious to you, maybe not. But what this email was is this is an actual phishing email that our engineers received over at LPL. We took this email, repackaged and repurposed it for training. So what I'm going to be doing is using something called the top-down approach. The top-down approach is just a method that we devise. And again, it's very, you're probably already doing it automatically without thinking. But essentially, it's just a methodical way of going from the top of an email down and looking for various red flags or items that might be off with this email. So let's go ahead and start at the top here. So if we start at the top, then this is going to be very important, because when it comes to any email you receive, the first thing you're going to see is who's coming from, who's going to, and that subject line. So these are very important to look at. But you'll see with a lot of these phishing emails, there's going to be an unknown sender. And the reason why there's an unknown sender is because these emails typically, like I mentioned, are being sent to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people at a time. So they're not going to really, you're not going to typically know who's sending it over to you. Now, there is some small cases where someone's trying to impersonate someone you know, but for this purpose, most of these emails you're going to encounter will never address you. They're going to be from a random person you've never seen before. So we go down a little bit further. You're going to see that the subject line, which is very important, you can see that it says we've paused your credit exclamation point. So they're trying to usually put some sort of urgent attention grabbing subject line. In this case, they're telling you that your credit's paused. So if I was looking at this and I believed this email, no one wants their credit frozen because that means they can't make credit card purchases or open new cards or apply for loans. So they're definitely going to want to fix this right away. That's how they're going to get you to click on this. So if someone's financially conscious or they do hold a credit card, they might be more tempted to click on this and fall for it. And if you look at the from sign here, when it comes from the unknown sender, one thing I do want to let everyone know about is that where it says from, in this case, is coming from someone apparently trying to impersonate American Express, but they spelled Express wrong. But if we look at American Express Joe, that's very generic. We don't know who that is, but I want you to know that a cyber criminal can actually change that from message. So the name that's coming from, they can change that to whatever they want. So if it says that it's coming from someone or somewhere from a certain business, you should always double check the email it's being sent from. If we look at what emails it's being sent from, it says joe.hill@email.com. @email.com isn't related to American Express. It's just a generic email. So this person is probably not who they say they are. That's not an American Express email. Sometimes the names won't even match up. They'll say that they're named one thing, but if you look at their email, the name's completely different. So always take a look at what the actual email is being sent from. That can really give a lot of things away. If we go a little bit further down, you'll see there's a generic greeting on this email here. But again, being sent to the masses, getting sent to thousands of people at a time, they're not going to address you by name. Sometimes what they will do is they're going to address you maybe by your email address. No one in their right mind will ever address you by their email address. If someone wrote an email over to me and said, hey, christian.alvarez@lpl.com, nice to meet you. No one does that. That's just going to mean that they're using some sort of automated software to put that in for them. So again, typically they're not going to address you by name in a lot of these emails. If we go down a little further, this is kind of the meat of this phishing email here. If you look at this, is the entire email that's been made was made so you can click on this one link here and convince you to click on that link. So if we look, they're telling you that your information can't go on file, or if you want to continue to use your credit card, you need to click this link here. And there's a couple things wrong with this link. So if we go ahead and look at it, you might not be able to tell right away, but at the very beginning, the protocol at the end, or the security protocol in the email and the website header says HTTP. It's actually supposed to say HTTPS. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of what that stands for. If you're curious, it stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It's just a website protocol you're supposed to use to secure your websites. This is using a very old type of security that's not compliant anymore. Any website you access should always start with HTTPS. And if it doesn't have that S at the end, that means they're not using proper security protocols and it's an old website that's not being properly managed. In fact, if you try to click on this link right now on a modern web browser, you'd actually get a pop-up that tells you that the website is unsafe and it's not following security practices. So if you ever see a pop-up like that, you're navigating through Google and it tells you that a website's unsafe, probably don't go to that website. They're not managing that website properly. So if we go a little bit further, see it says mx45.com. Again, a very generic link. This is not going to take you to American Express. Most likely what's going to happen is when you click on this link, it's going to take you to a fake American Express page where when you enter in your login information, your username and your password, what they're going to do is they're just going to go ahead and collect that information. You're not going to be able to log in, and they're going to take your credentials and try to log in on their own at a later date. So we go a little bit further down, you can see there's some spelling grammatical errors. Now in this particular case, this person put 2 periods at the end. Some of the grammar doesn't really make too much sense, sounds a little off. So there's not too many mistakes here, but one thing to note is that mistakes on emails like this are becoming less and less common. The reason why, and we just talked about artificial intelligence, and Ryan was talking about this, people are now using generative AI to create these email prompts for them, making someone whose English isn't their first language, they can easily tell ChatGPT or another platform in their own home language to create an email for them in English with good grammar so they can send it out to people. So again, there are spelling grammatical errors on this. If you do see grammatical errors on an email that's sent from a large Fortune 500 company like this, it probably isn't legitimate because they do look for these things and they don't let things like that slide. But again, there's errors on here that should be immediately red flag that a large business is not going ahead and running this. So if we look at then another vague or generic signature, American Express customer care, we don't know who could that be? Could be anyone. Again, this is being sent to the masses, and that's kind of how you break down the top-down approach here. So from the top to the bottom, we saw all these different red flags that were here, and you can do this on your phone, you can do this on your email. It's very important that you can do this with a lot of different things. So use this top-down approach going forward if you think you see an email that might be a little bit suspicious. we go a little bit further, this slide just encapsulates the fact that not every phishing email you receive is going to be about American Express or anything like that. There's actually different things they can do. And just because you see logos or just because you see icons or maybe it's formatted very well, looks very pretty, that doesn't mean that the email you're receiving or text message you're receiving is legitimate. These two examples showcase that this person's trying to imitate Netflix, and they're trying to get you to update your payment information. And once you try to click that retry this payment, they're going to try to collect your payment information and they're going to spend it maliciously so you can't get that money back. If you look at the rights here with this text message, just like how I talked about earlier, a fake UPS delivery update. Again, my recommendation is if you receive things like this and you're very suspicious that it might not be legitimate, I always recommend just going directly to the source. So if you have a Netflix email that comes in, tells you that your Netflix password has been compromised, instead of clicking the link on the email, just go directly to your Netflix website and change it yourself. And don't go ahead and save your time by clicking emails here, because oftentimes that extra 10 to 15 seconds you're saving is not going to be worth it in the long run. Same with this UPS tracking. If you think that this is a fake UPS tracking text that you received, don't go click on the text message, go directly to your UPS account, and you can go and check if anything has been sent to your address and get the status updates directly there. So those are gonna be my recommendations there, and it ties in a little bit to a lot of those type of scams that are out there. I can spend an hour talking about the different types of scams that exist, but here's some of the basic ones that I want to briefly go over. Invoice scams. These are types of scams where someone sends you an invoice for a payment or for something you never paid for in the first place to try to scare you and to try to fix that problem or error that's there. So oftentimes they'll tell you like, hey, thanks for making this purchase, here's an invoice, and then it'll be like a $900 purchase you didn't make. So obviously you're going to want to get scared and maybe try to correct that. But once you call the number for the support, or you try to click on a link there, that's where they're going to get you with that type of scam. Gift card scams are especially prevalent. Bitcoin scams are also very prevalent. So these two types of scams take advantage of the fact that if you give someone a gift card and someone tells you that you need to pay for something via a gift card over the phone, or you have malware, in order to pay for the service to remove the malware, you need to give them an $100 Amazon gift card. The reason why cybercriminals ask for cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or gift cards is a couple of things. It gives them a lot of privacy, and because entities like the FBI have a harder time tracking things like that, or a lot of these things are non-refundable. I know in some rare cases, Bitcoin can get retrieved again, and the FBI has been able to do that. But in most cases, if you send someone cryptocurrency or you send someone a gift card code, you are not getting that money back. That's why they always operate and try to get this type of, payment for any of their services. So there's a couple other things: tech support scams and investment scams. They take advantage of the fact that people might not be well versed in technology, or people might not be well versed in finance or investing, and they use this lack of knowledge in order to create confusion and try to get people to pay for services or pay for investments that they think that they need or that are legitimate when in fact they're not. So best practices for any type of online scam that you're encountering: do not click on any link or open any attachments from unknown sources. Understand that a large IT company like Microsoft or even LPL, they're not going to call you or email you personally to help tell you have a virus on your computer. There's very, very rare instances where that would happen. But unless you're paying for a service or paying for an IT person on a monthly basis to manage your computer, no one should know what you have on your computer. An antivirus company will never call you and tell you, hey, you have a virus on your computer, let us remove that for you. Nope, it's not part of their business model. If you're paying for antivirus software, the antivirus company wants you to use that software and just stay within that software and remove the malware using the software they gave you. They don't want you calling them directly. If you're ever unsure about the legitimacy of any interaction that you ever have, please just contact that company directly. So if someone tells you they're calling from LPL and you're suspicious that they might not be, hang up, call LPL directly. I'll tell you one thing: I will never be upset if someone hung up on me because they thought I was a scammer or thought I wasn't from LPL. That's on me for not verifying myself properly. Any LPL person that's calling you will not be offended. Same goes for a lot of other large companies. We care about your security and privacy. If you're just being safe, doesn't matter. It's not going to offend anyone. So if we go a little bit further, I want to talk about securing your accounts and your devices. Now, this is going to be the stuff that's really applicable to you in terms of what can you do right now to protect yourself. And the number one thing that I see, and the number one opportunity that most of the people here on the call today could probably improve right now, is going to be their passwords. Now, passwords are the keys to your kingdom. A lot of you might be having some weak passwords out there that you're reusing. Maybe you have the same password you've been using for the past 20 years and it's been good to you. It's never been hacked. You've never been hacked before, and you want to keep on using it to the rest of your life. Now, there's some problems with that, all right? So what does LPL think a good password looks like? Well, I'll tell you right now. A good password that LPL recommends is going to have an uppercase and lowercase letter. You're going to have a special character, a number, and symbol on there. You're going to have some, and it's going to be 15 plus characters in length. Now, you might be looking at me like I'm crazy, like Christian. There's no way I'm going to have a 15 plus character password that's unique, that I have a unique one for every single account I have, that I'm going to be able to memorize or change frequently. Again, I understand, I empathize with you. I was once at that boat there. In fact, I know that a lot of you probably do this. So I'll use an example. My old dog, Fender, we love Fender, may he rest in peace, but he was a good dog, had him for 15 years, really great dog. But what I would do is I would use my dog's name, Fender, with the capital F at the end or the beginning, and then I would just put the year that he was born. So 2005, right? And then we'll go ahead, and he was born 2005, Actually, he was born a little early, but I'll use that example. So Fender 2005 was my password for everything. What I do is whenever I was prompted to change a password, or I got a notification that my password might have been breached, when I was little, I would just increment that number by 1. I would make it Fender 2006, then Fender 2007. If I was feeling really secure, I would do Fender 2006 and maybe put an exclamation point at the end. Well, there's a couple problems like that. If you have reused passwords, cyber criminals can oftentimes either use software to guess those small changes that you have, or they can use software to go ahead and take a password they've compromised and try it on a bunch of different accounts, which is very important. The main reason why we don't want you reusing passwords. So if you look, there's a couple things on the screen here that talk and mention password managers. So how do I go about having a 15 plus character password with all this complexity for all the different accounts that I have? And in fact, I have about 250 different online accounts that I manage for work and personal. So how do I manage them? Well, I use a tool called a password manager. A password manager is a piece of software that offers a convenient way to manage and store complex passwords. It lets you generate passwords for you, and it stores all of your passwords online in the cloud in a secure encrypted environment. So if you've ever used cloud storage before, like Microsoft OneDrive, Box.com, Dropbox, Google Drive, or even iCloud, it's doing the exact same thing. If you can trust your pictures and your information to the cloud, you can also trust a password manager. Password managers store everything just as encrypted and just in a secure manner as those services do. And they give you the benefit of being able to have everything in one place and auto fill in your passwords for you. Some of you on this call are familiar with Google Password Manager. Sometimes it goes and asks if you want to, save a password or generate a password for you. Password managers act just like that. That's a good example of a password manager, and there's a lot of benefits to using them, especially not being able to reuse them. So again, I'll be able to give some recommendations in a little bit, but some of you might be thinking, what password manager do I use? What do I want to do? Christian, what do you use? I can always answer more of those questions, but for everyone here on the call, I'll tell you that if you want to do some research on password managers, you can go to the website pcmag.com. That's pcmag.com. If you type in that pcmag.com and go to their search bar and type in password manager, they'll actually go and have a list of the top 15 password managers in the industry, the pros and cons and prices of using each. So you can go and make your own decision on what works best for you. I personally use a password manager called Bitwarden. That's Bitwarden. It's been working great for me, and it's free to use. So the free version should be more than good for anyone in this call here today. They do have a paid version with more features, but that's also a good password manager to start with. And I've been using that for about 6 years, no problem whatsoever. So when it comes to password security tips, I talked a lot about this here already, but just make sure if you are going to use, let's say you don't want to use a password manager and you just want to make the passwords you have right now more secure, well, follow these tips here. We're going to recommend that you don't use any personal information. So don't go ahead and put anything that someone could easily find, whether your favorite sports team or your favorite color, or again, the name of your dog, pet, your favorite car model. All these type of things can be found online in social media. So you want to make sure that that's not available out in the public. We also want to make sure you avoid using dictionary words. Now, what do I mean by dictionary words? I mean words that are commonly broken or been commonly used by other people. So if your password is password123, definitely change that. Cyber criminals have access to dictionary lists where they have thousands and millions of breached passwords that people use in the past. They're going to try those passwords first. They want to break into your account. Not reusing passwords, already talked about the benefits of that. and using multi-factor authentication. I briefly mentioned, and Ryan briefly mentioned, two-factor authentication. You know, the idea of trust not verify. It's just MFA is just an extra layer of protection you can add to your accounts in case someone did break into your password. Multi-factor authentication will stop that cybercriminal right on their tracks and not let them log in. Talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Now, understanding if your password is strong enough. Normally, I go over this and go in depth and detail, but I want to be conscious of the time here. But just the main thing to understand with if your password is strong enough, this graph is showing how long it takes for someone to brute force your password. Brute forcing is just using a piece of software to guess every single permutation and combination of your password possible. So a cyber criminal is basically using raw computing power in order to cycle through every password until they hit the right one that's on that you're using. So if you look and we can see how long it takes to break into a password using modern software, if you go to an 8-character password and you have all of the complexity that I required from you and I told you about in the past, you have a number, uppercase, lowercase letter, of a symbol, it will take a cybercriminal 39 minutes on average to break into your account. And again, this is assuming that there's no other multi-factor authentication or restrictions or login restrictions in place, which most websites do have, but we're assuming like a worst case scenario here. Now, if we go to my recommendation, I said to use a 15+ character password. So we go to 15-character passwords, we go to the right, and we look at the numbers and uppercase and lowercase letters and symbols. It's over here in the yellow. It would take the same cyber criminal with the same type of hardware setup 1 billion years to break into your account. So that shows that if you want to protect yourself from these type of attacks and threats, having a longer password is very, very well recommended. And I recommend especially if you're using a password manager, you can easily create these long passwords as they can create as much as like 99 character passwords for you and store them so you don't have to remember them. So I mentioned briefly multi-factor authentication. Again, it's just another way to make sure that your accounts stay protected. And again, what does multi-factor authentication mean? Well, when it comes to authenticating to your account, the first factor of authentication that you have is typically your password. It's something you know. And next factor of authentication is typically something you have. What is it that you have? Either an email code or a text message code sometimes, or even sometimes it could be if you have like a fingerprint or facial recognition or Face ID set up, it could be biometrics set up with that too. Or there's also authenticator apps. Whatever it is, or whatever you're using, turning on multi-factor authentication on any sensitive account you have is going to be our #1 recommendation here. Very, very important. It's the #1 way to make sure that any account you have stays under your control. If someone tries to log in and they break into your password and they try to log in, you're going to get a little prompt on your phone or maybe an email code saying, hey, someone tried to log in. Here's the email code to log in. And if you know that wasn't you that logged in, then you know someone has access to your password. It essentially lets you know that you should probably change your password right away. Again, great thing to turn on. It can be a little annoying at first because it takes an extra 10 seconds to log in. That 10 seconds is definitely well worth it, especially if it's for a very important financial account. Now, if you want to check if your accounts have been compromised, I'm going to recommend that you use this website and this resource, haveibeenpwned.com. All you can use this resource for, and it's really great, you can go ahead and type in either an email, you can type in passwords on here. It's not going to collect it. It's not a scam site. I know it sounds redundant, but this is an actual tool used by cybersecurity professionals. And you can go ahead and check if your email has been found or on a data breach of some sorts, or has been found on the dark web. And what you can do in this example, in this screenshot that I have here, you can see that I put in my Yahoo email that I've had since I was in middle school. And you can see that there is an example here of 123RF. My email was found in that data breach. Now with that, what is 123RF? It's just a stock image tool that I used in college to get stock images for PowerPoints. But I went ahead and because I knew about this, and they actually did notify me that they were breached years ago. So I was able to change my password, set up multi-factor authentication. But some companies don't do a good job, or you ignored an email there. This is a really great resource to make sure that you can check where you've been breached so you can change those passwords right away, make sure those accounts stay in your control. If you're wondering where the word pwned came from, it's just a play on the term owned, and it's a piece of internet slang just used by people in like gaming communities or online communities as a gloating expression for control or victory. So used among hackers mainly. So we look a little bit further And I want to make sure we end off this presentation by talking about some two topics that are very important. First is going to be social media best practices. I want to make sure we cover this a little bit, but just ensuring that you protect your social media accounts. They're very important. Losing your social media account can be very damaging to your reputation. So you want to make sure that you hold your social media accounts near and dear to yourself. And in fact, in some cases, you can always get your money back, or you can always make more money to get that back for you. When it comes to your reputation or personal brand, it's extremely hard to build that up back from scratch. So making sure that you don't have a cybercriminal taking control over your accounts and then messaging people or posting obscene things on your behalf. You don't want that happening. Secure your social media accounts with MFA. Make sure you have a unique password for all of your accounts. Understanding that what you post online stays online, which is why it's so important to make sure it's in your control. And also private your account. Making sure your account stays private gives cybercriminals less ammunition to use to target you or target your friends and family. If you keep your accounts private, a lot of different types of social media attacks just don't work very well. So unless you plan on being the next super influencer or TikTok star, which I don't think a lot of people in this call are, and I'm definitely not going to be, make sure that you keep your accounts on private, your Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts, whatever you use, keep it on private so people can't go ahead and reach out to you and target you. Again, talking about backing up data is very important. But I just want to briefly go over, if you do have the option to have backups for your backups, that's something that I always believe in. But there's two ways to do that. You can store things physically, or you can utilize something called cloud storage. All cloud storage is you're storing things on another person's server in a big server room that's protected with security, fire redundancies, climate control, and essentially you're trusting another company with your data, but they have so many redundancies in place that it's almost nearly impossible for them to ever lose it once you store it online. So if you ever have data that you want to hold near and dear to you and want to make sure it's secure, you can always leverage cloud storage services like OneDrive, Box.com, and Dropbox in order to do that. Physical storage has its benefits too, but it can be lost. The only thing I want to touch on this is that if you do have a hard drive or a personal hard drive you've been using for the past 10 years, you should probably replace it every 10 years because they can fail. But it's also a very good way to store things offline because you can't really hack a hard drive if no one has access to it and you keep it on yourself. All right, so I want to make sure we are at time here, so I want to make sure we're giving everyone some good time, but we'll go through identity theft protection. Again, a lot of people, they see data breaches on there. They see that their social security number is breached. People ask me, Christian, what do I do? Number one thing you could do is probably take control of your identity by offering or purchasing some identity theft protection services. There's some services that are on here, CreditWise, LifeLock, Experian, or Big. There's tons of different ones out there. These can help you notify if someone's using your credit maliciously or if someone's doing something in your name that you don't want them doing. Definitely has benefits there. But the main thing I want to talk about here before we get off the presentation is going to be our credit monitoring freezing, because this is available to everyone and it's free. So making sure you run your free credit reports on an annual basis can be very important. Not only will it make sure that your credit score is where it needs to be, but it can also act as, again, another safeguard to make sure no one's opening credit on your name. Freezing credit's also important. Anyone can freeze your credit for free for any of the 3 major credit bureaus. You're going to have to come with some information before you freeze your credit. They're going to ask for your social security number. Maybe you might need some birth certificate information, your address and current place of work. So make sure you have all that stuff available. But once you freeze your credit, no one can open up any lines of credit in your name unless you unfreeze your credit, which you can actually do at any time. You can freeze and unfreeze your credit using their automated phone system. They make it very easy, but this really prevents cyber criminals from conducting identity theft. And if you lose your social security number or someone tries to apply for a loan or open a credit card, if you have a frozen credit, it will not go through and it will not affect your credit score. So I know we're a little over, so just some call to action here. If you could take away anything from the things I'm talking about today, understand that LPL is committed to supporting your advisor office, supporting you and protecting your information. Understand that social engineering attacks are specifically made to take advantage of your human emotions. Do not click on any links or attachments from unknown sources. Value security or convenience when traveling or away from home. But to be honest, you should be valuing security over convenience at all times. Enable multi-factor authentication. I know it takes some more time on your day, but turn it on. You'll be thankful for it. And understand that when you protect your accounts, you're also protecting your family, their assets, and their future. So want to make sure you're always protecting your accounts, doing everything possible when available there. So we have some disclosures here, and we have a thank you message here. I'll go ahead and hand it back off to Carlo and Eric for some closing remarks.
Thank you. That was beyond all expectations, gentlemen. That was really amazing. And thank you to everybody who attended today. Have a wonderful week. We will make ourselves available for any follow-up questions on this or anything else. We hope everybody has a fantastic day.
Have a great week. We'll see you soon. Bye now.
All right, bye, everyone.